bring in the orders, and you can call them, or they send you an email and say, bring in so many of these, so many of this, so many of that. You can tell them how much you got available, day by day, and they can say, okay, here's the orders going out. Use FedEx, UPS, start with, get your own delivery, whatever. We just need to rethink the system. I tell people one of the advantages of being old is you can remember when things aren't like they were today. When I was a kid, we did not have supermarkets. We had a grocery store. There weren't any supermarkets in our whole part of Missouri, southwest Missouri. I can remember when the first Piggly Wiggly store came in. Up until then, you took your grocery list into a grocery store and you gave it to somebody behind the counter, and they went back and got off 2 cans of beans and slashed off 2 pounds of bacon and, got a head of cabbage or whatever and put it in a paper poke, we call them, put it all up on the ticket and said, here's what you owe. And we would take it out, and that's the way you got your groceries. Piggly Wiggly, I bet everybody thought, well, they're going to steal them blind. They're going to let people take that stuff off the shelf themselves. They'll be sticking it in their pockets and stick it in bags and carry it out and everything. But anyway, another interesting part of that would have been in the 40s or 50s. I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was walking down the street in Memphis, Tennessee, and I saw one of those historical plaques. So I went over and read the plaque, and it happened that was the same store, that was the location where Piggly Wiggly had his first store. And I looked at the date, and the first store on it was like 1917. And I thought, well, that's unusual. And I went and I looked it up online, and they actually invented the Piggly Wiggly store like right before World War I, right about that time. But it never caught on. The idea just didn't catch on. Not until like the late 30s or 40s. So the thing is, a lot of times you have this revolutionary idea is out there, and people are kind of tinkering with it, and you don't find the right place. And I think that's where we are now, with like Amazon bought out Whole Foods. They realize that food buying is going to be home delivery. I think that's the reason they bought them. They said they want a cooler space, but I think they know you can take food systems home delivery. I think what Amazon will find is what the others do. That you can do that home delivery food much more efficient locally than you can try to do it nationally. It's not going to fit the big model because people are demanding now that they want to know how it's grown, they want to know the person that produces the food, they want to trust somebody who's doing it. And so the local thing is coming along at the same time as the internet marketing and home delivery is coming along. And to make those two major trends kind of come together, then we have local food networks, local economies that are served through this system. It's much more energy efficient. We'll wrap it up here, but it's much more energy efficient, for example, I would argue, to go around through the neighborhood. You got the FedEx and UPS trucks running through there anyway. Is just drop off food in everybody's house and have everybody drive to the grocery store 2 or 3 days a week to pick up this and that and something else. Have one more question, then we'll wrap it up.
Walmart is delivering. Well, I don't know if they're delivering, but you can pick up they'll bring it out to your car here. And our local grocery store has been delivering food for a while. But you mentioned during your speech about Tyson, I think, and Smithfield were starting to give them, I think you said chickens and turkeys, more room or cutting back on antibiotics.
Yeah.
Are those two products that are being sent over to China to be processed and then sent back?
Sent over to where?
China?
No, not as far as I know. Maybe chickens going to China and coming back or whatever. I've heard that. I'm not saying there is or isn't one way or the other, but I don't doubt that there is, because there's a lot of strange things go on. Just it doesn't seem to make economic sense. But if you really just pencil it out, it's the absolute cheapest way to do it. But Tyson and Purdue going to antibiotic-free, I think they're simply responding to what they know is growing consumer concerns. The rest of the world is basically already regulating antibiotics and limiting antibiotics to just treatment of diseases, not prevention. What we still have you can still use it here for prevention of disease. Well, if you're crowding all these animals together, you got to feed them antibiotics to prevent disease. You don't know exactly what it is. But particularly if you're a corporate operation, you've got a veterinarian on call that will come out and say, if we don't feed the antibiotics to these animals, they're going to get this or this or this, and that's all you have to do to continue feeding it to them. I had a guest lecture in a class with a couple of students, and one of them had worked in a hog operation, and we were talking about this. They were studying, transfer of disease from animals to humans. And I said, well, you could cut this out. She said they use it for prevention of disease. And she said, well, I worked for this CAFO operation, and they told us flat out, she says, if you don't feed antibiotics to these sows that are having little pigs, you're going to lose half of the little pigs. Well, I said, what does that tell you about the system of production? If you've got a production system that you set up that you know that if you don't feed antibiotics to those sows, you're going to lose half of the pigs. What does that tell you? I don't think Tyson and Purdue are committed to fundamentally changing the system. They're committed to doing what they have to do, what they feel they have to do to keep their customers. And if you want to read about what we're talking about here, there's a book called The Big Chicken, where they go into that. They hadn't banned it yet, but they were moving it. So they've been working, Purdue had been working on it for 10 years because they knew the pressure was mounting for them to move away. And Purdue just bought Nyman Ranch not too long ago. Nyman Ranch Pork, they started off as a smaller operation, really committed to humane production, antibiotic-free, and things of this nature. And I think what Purdue's trying to do is figure out how Nyman Ranch produces hogs without antibiotics, and they've been doing it outside. Now, I happened to speak at a Nyman Ranch annual conference, and they've been bought out by Purdue, and now they're talking about building a big confinement sow farrowing operation, and so, they'll probably be telling you pretty soon, well, we don't feed any antibiotics after the pigs leave the farrowing house, but I just don't, they're just going to do what they have to. I'm convinced we have to fundamentally change the system. I want to change it all the way from the farm level all the way up through the system, change the whole food system. There's no reason it shouldn't change. As I was saying before, the whole food system changed. We didn't have franchise restaurants or anything when I was a kid. Basically, that whole food system changed in 50 years. And I think the alternative food system today, the organic, hormone antibiotic-free, local food system, is farther along than the industrial food system was when I was a teenager. And so I think a fundamental change is totally possible, and it just takes people to drive it. Now, it's easy to get discouraged out here when you're doing this, and so I want to end up on this particular thing. I've become convinced in my old age that we each have a purpose in life. That's the only reason I'm here today, is because I think this is where I need to be. And so I think if each of us finds what we really need to be doing at some particular point in time, you get a sense of that. You can't even prove that life has any purpose, but if you've got a sense that this is what I ought to be doing, this is how I ought to be spending my time, rather than getting bogged down and saying, all of this is impossible, it'll never happen, the other side's too powerful, government never responds, or whatever. If you focus on saying, I'm going to do what I really feel I was put here to do. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to fulfill my purpose. If you do that, I think you will have made the greatest contribution you possibly could have made to making this a better world. So rather than get discouraged, just go out and do what you can do. That's all I'm doing here today. It just happens to be my little piece of the world. Of course, it's your little piece of the world. But I just really believe in my heart if we all continue to do that, this thing's going to turn out much better. Thank you very much for your time.